I think we're recording. Okay, let's start. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining today. This is our opportunity to update you on a few things regarding some really wonderful technology advancements that the HI team has been working hard on. We're going to cover a few things today. And I will turn the things over to Professor Hovien in a short order. We are recording this, so you will be able to share this with other staff members if they weren't able to attend. The three things we'd like to go over today. One is focused on Laserfish, which is the system that we are shifting to process procurement requests and also contract requests. So it's the interface with our good friends in MSO and all other parts of the corporation, finance, GMO, and of course the programs that are utilizing it. I will say off the bat, and a real thanks to Hovien and others, and especially Hovien to get this to work. This was a software that was purchased for the corporation, I want to say, I think 5 or 6 years ago through some DOI money. On the surface, it's a good application. Underneath the hood, it's not as intuitive, perhaps as it was made out to be, but it is an industry standard. That many places use it, including several agencies here. There are some challenges with this. There are some licensing issues that we're hoping to work out, and but we want to be able to make sure the programs that are online today, hospital programs, public health, behavioral health, CGC, WIC and others start utilizing this, and then we will build a use case to be able to expand the licenses. So really thank all those who are starting to use it, and thank those who are going to use it. We really want to drop the amount of paper that's being processed and be able to provide much more timelier feedback. As many of you recall, Anthony and MSO started a tracker for PRs, and that kind of led to how can all of the support groups, the MSOs, the finance, how can they provide more timely awareness of your procurement requests to all of you? In a customer sense, you all are customers, and we need to figure out how to make that. And so Laserfish is one method to help promote better service there. The other couple things that I hope Hovien will go over will be some of the technology advances IT's put in regarding how to submit IT requests. Doesn't mean you can't call, but again, the IT team is trying to bring all these requests into one area so they can triage them quickly, prioritize them, and respond in a reasonable time frame. I know when we have IT issues, we all think our IT issue is the most important one, recognizing that while we've got an increase in IT staff, we also have additional users and competing priorities, especially with the hospital and clinics and EHR. So it's not meant to downplay or reduce the importance of non-hospital, non-clinic needs, but it's meant to also track and triage as quickly as possible. And it's also feedback to the IT team on being able to look at this tracking system to identify what are the major pain points. If they start seeing the same problem over and over again, it gives them a chance to think about what can they do better to address that problem that seems to be pervasive across the corporation. On a similar note, I think Hovien will also show you how to request facility support, and it's a similar concept. And lastly, I would appreciate Hovian giving you an overview of what's called the Only Office, which is a tool to help, well, you'll see it. I don't want to give it away. So with that, again, I'll just turn it over to Hovian to kind of lead this, and we'll go from there. So Hovian, I hope that sets you up well, and take it away. And by the way, we're hoping this is going to be on YouTube, because our goal is for Hovian to become our CHCC movie star. He's already got 2 or 3 YouTubes out there. So I want you all to, help him achieve this goal, because we know he's going to get there. So over to you, Hovian.
All right, thank you. No, this will be going on the YouTube, and it'll also be going on the local. Not for stardom for sure, but yes, it will be. So what I'm going to go over first, I want to go over the ticketing systems first. So the plan with this is to try to cover these in just a couple minutes. And if there are any questions, anyone, please chime in. We're all family here, so just go ahead and jump in and say if you have any questions. I don't want there to be anybody left wishing that they had asked and find themselves in a position where, maybe it gets forgotten. So to start with, I'll show the IT ticketing system. Now, there are a lot of instructions here for what to do, but it's all very basic, and I'm going to show that now. So the login is generally going to be your computer login. For this one, we're going to use temp user. Okay, once it's signed in, it's probably going to ask you for an email account. I used the Gmail on this one on purpose. I wanted to show that whatever email that you may have, just so that you can receive the communication, but it'll be the first question that it'll ask over in this pane to attach an email address to your login. So you'll go over here to the ticket to generate the ticket. The default is going to be medium. Summary is similar to when you send an actual email. You're just going to put like your subject heading there. What's wrong? Like you'll say PC won't start. And then the description, leave as much detail as you possibly can. For the category, you can select, like say for this one, PC won't start, you could say hardware, other, whatever in here may fill, hardware, computer, just so that we have a general idea of what it is. Select your department from the drop down. If your help that you're requesting is for, say, a spreadsheet or a document, or you'd like us to maybe convert something to another format, using this is good. Also, if there's a typhoon or something and there's like flooding, if you were to send us a picture in advance, like say you're in N29, there was some flooding that happened, sending us a picture would be extremely helpful, so we have an idea of exactly what it is that we're getting into. Once it's submit, it'll become part of your history in this area. All of the tickets that you submit will all be part of your own history. Now, if you're an individual, as you log in, let's say for me, I would put in Jovian de la Armada to log in. But if I'm in, say, C-side, D-side, and we're all having using the same computers, it's okay to log in with those general accounts as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close these as I'm done, because I have this little thing up in the corner of my screen making it difficult to tab through. And I'm going to jump over to the maintenance ticketing. And I am running through these kind of quickly because I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time with these because they are pretty basic. And then for the ticketing system, all of these URLs will be available. If you need them in an email, just email me and I can get you all of the URLs for all of this. The maintenance system, you'll log in again with that same password you logged into the previous with. This one may be even more basic than the earlier one. We're hoping that maintenance will elaborate on this knowledge base a little bit, but just to give an example, I put in one article so you could find what your issue may be, what the problem might be, and a small little how-to possibly fix it on their own. But the overviews section, when you first log in, is going to give you all of your previous tickets that you've submitted, whatever they may be. For this one, clicking the plus will be for a new ticket. And similar to the other, the subject line of what it might be, like we'll say you're in radiology and there's a piece of equipment that's having difficulties, PBSI issue. You could put in the title of what the problem is. You could put in the text of the description. Again, attachment could be photos or whatever may help. And then if it is PBSI, you're going to select that as opposed to any of our other general maintenance requests. It's a new ticket, and you'll put in your department information. And then all of this is mostly going to be the PBSI towards the bottom. If it is something basic, like just, I don't know, flooding from the restroom, that's when you could put in plumbing. And then you won't need to fill in this information that's PBSI related. You can just put in as much information. The ones with the stars are the mandatory fields, and submit. And then this will also go to maintenance, and then they'll have somebody be able to work on that ticket as it comes.
Julian,
I
I have
wanted
a
to
quick
cover.
question. Sorry.
Sure.
So when they submit the tickets, do they go directly to maintenance, or they go directly to HIT, depending on what the ticket is for, or does it get channeled through you folks?
No, so if it's an IT ticket, it's going to come directly to IT. We all have access, the same level of access, so pretty much whoever receives it is probably going to be the one who's going to take on the ticket and work on it. With the maintenance side, they want it to go through someone like Sherry, who's going to receive the ticket and then give it out to whichever person that's working that they choose to assign it to.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so now I'm gonna hit the asset management just really quickly, and this is just a primer to get you guys ready for whoever may be handling your inventory in your area. So again, same login as the previous systems. These are your computer logins. Once they're in, this is going to be sorted by, I'm just taking a second to load here. Okay. The number one areas you need to worry about at first is going to be that your department is there. If it's not, they can enter that information. Then the next place that they're going to the manager, she has 11 people. The next thing after you check on your department, you can insert your department if it's not there, and check your people. You're going to go in. This is going to look for all of the people that's in CHCC. Once you found everybody that works for your area, you assign them to where they're going to be, and now you have all of your people covered. The next step is going to be the actual assets themselves. A lot of these assets, since we queried everything off of the network, may already be in here. But what you're going to do is just look for anything that is IT related based on serial number, based on tag, things like that. If it's not in here, then that's when you'll go to create a new asset. You can also work with us. What we'll do is we'll try to help you to be able to determine if the asset is actually there or if it's not. Some other people that asked if it's okay to add assets that are not IT related. I can't see any problems with that. I think it would be okay if people do enter, say, furniture and things like that. It'll just be less information in each of the fields. You may not have a serial number for your desk, for example, but in the description, you could leave exactly what it is, who it may be assigned to. But it's not just individuals that you can assign things to. You can also assign them to locations. So if you were to say, for example, dental, maybe it doesn't go home with the person each day and it's not assigned to that one person. There's several people that uses a computer or a desk or a filing cabinet. You can just assign it to, say, front of the office or back of the office and things like that, all directly off of dental, just as an example. Okay. Now, each person who's going to be managing the assets will be able to view everything that's in the hospital. So really that's where this search window is going to come in handy, so that you can really refine what it is that you're looking for. And then from there, you can do things like, you know, if you wanted to view labels on your own equipment and then attach it. Let's see if it's going to allow me to do that.
Yeah, select it.
Yeah, it's not. Oh, okay. And then that would have a bunch of labels that you could come up with and put on your equipment. So if you wanted to make it faster for yourself when you're doing the inventory, you can go around with your smartphone, scan either the QR code or the serial bar, and it'll pull it up in the browser so that you can see that it is that equipment, and you can show that it's there. That is the really quick version of the asset management. Like I say to everyone, if you have the people identified in your area for who's going to be doing the asset management, please have them get with me. Besides the training that I have online, I can also do in person. And now for the one that I'm expecting is probably going to take a little bit more time, is the laserfish. So there was some confusion about how people would actually work filling out a PR, for an example. So a lot of people aren't going to need to worry about having logins. All of the links are going to be basically submitted anonymously, but all of these links are also specific to your area. I'll show an example. These are all of the, well, eventually when this comes up. What's up? Okay. Sorry, I'm on wireless here, so it's not the fastest. Anyway, let me move on with this. So for people who are signature authorities, you will have logins. Everyone else, most of the people that are submitting PRs will not. I'm going to log in just to show what it is that people are seeing. And did I pull up the thing? And this site, so Laserfish is broken down into two separate.
Are you signing as your name?
Was that question to me, or is that open mic?
It's open mic. Please mute your
Okay.
phone. Thank you. I think Pearlie sent you a question.
Okay, let me see. Where can I see that? Okay, in chat. Okay, Pearlie is asking, would asset tracker be able to capture cost info? Yes, it will, Pearlie. I think this is a better interface than current fixed assets module of JDE. Yes, it can. Any cost info that comes in. So the nice thing is if we receive a shipment and we have all of our assets that come in with the POs, all of the itemized listing, I know Atemalu, for example, puts all the info. So she'll put what the PO number was, she'll put the value of the asset, she puts every little detail. So you can keep a very detailed account of everything. Now for the, I'm gonna go ahead and close this. For the URLs that are generated in the Laserfish, they are all different. So I've been telling people, you know, don't share the URLs with anyone else that's outside of your area. Hold on, I got another question. Okay, so Cora's got a question. Follow up on asset management. Can we integrate what we have right now in the JD into Laserfish? Can we? Okay, we don't want to follow up on the asset management. Okay, so what we have right now, JD Laserfish. Can we go back? So Cora, are you asking for because the Laserfish is separate from the asset management system. So any of the information that you have, if it's in JDE, if it can be exported into like a CSV file or like an Excel type file, any kind of Excel type file, you can take that information, especially if it's just for like fiscal year 2019, you could take that information and upload, but you'd want to be able to make sure that it was broken down into like each separate area, like say for IT, so that each person could kind of scrub through it and kind of make sure that it all met up. Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so Pearlie's saying let's meet separately on the asset one. So that sounds good. So we'll go ahead and meet up and we'll discuss all these things.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Just a quick question.
Okay.
Right now with the JDE, since we're pretty much okay with our fixed assets, we're using now instead of
Mhm.
OP, OF to kind of signifies all asset. So
Right.
if we're processing asset procurement to the Laserfish, I was hoping that we can automatically, that information gets into the asset management without having to re-enter it again, at least for the beginning of this process now.
Okay, so with this is a little bit different. So one thing is the Laserfish is separate from the asset management that we have here. So don't think when we're talking about the asset management, it's a completely separate system from the Laserfish. Now anything that happens in the JDE, that's really only managed by a few people. So the whole purpose of this asset management is so that each individual area can maintain their own accountability initially of their own PCs. It was just asked by some people as I was doing some of the trainings if it would be possible for them to also put in other assets like televisions, projectors, expensive tables, whatever it may be. And that was when I was saying, you know, there wouldn't be any difficulty with that. But then when they're working with MSO for their inventory, they'd be able to quickly in this system print out some type of an inventory so that that way they have something that they can show. It's kind of like an assistance to helping whatever MSO does with the JDE, and I won't assume to understand what that is. I hope that
Got it.
answers some of the questions.
Yes, got it. Thank you, Hogan.
No problem.
Also, if I could just
Okay.
add, Cora and Ovian, a lot of this was, we definitely buy a lot of equipment and assets, but on the local side. But when we look at the federal side and items that are either hot ticket items like laptops, network printers, MiFis, and then things that are over $5,000, we have that information perhaps deep in folders, but it's never really readily accessible at the macro level. So this also gets to a point of when we're in a disaster like we're in right now, currently we keep we keep processing lots of PRs for more laptops. And yet, the first thing when we have a disaster is to be able to look within our inventory to see based on what's available right now, what could be transitioned and temporarily reassigned from, a program to the COVID response, for example. So that's kind of where inventory began its roots. So just to kind of add to that explanation. Thank you.
Yeah, and the nice thing with this system is it can actually show the history of where the asset is moved from. So if somebody had actually purchased it, that will show. But then I believe it was Porsche who was telling me that they obtain certain equipment, but then they assign it out to say RHC or THC. So all of that movement of that equipment can all be tracked so that you can see exactly where it's going, where it originated from, and all of that. Now I'm going to go on to these links. Again, so for the monthly report for CEO, all of those are the same link So all of that information is all going to be funneled into one area. But for the contracts and the PRs, those are all individual and separate. And so that's why when changes are asked to be made, a lot of times, not only do they have to be made one at a time through each of these links, but then inside of these is several different steps that all need to be individually updated. So making changes can be pretty tough. Sometimes it may seem like a huge change and it may be something that only takes me 5 minutes. Sometimes it may seem like the smallest little thing, like changing a name, like say DHS, right? So our org charts switched up a little bit. Now, if you were to change this on all of these, it ends up being over 1,000 processes for all of these to do that. It's a very big change. So I just wanted to let everyone know kind of how that worked at the base level, and then go on to kind of describe some of this. Now, what I wanted to do is go through a process to actually show everyone what it's going to look like from the start to the finish. So if I'm going to follow one of these, I set up an example. Where did it go? Over here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and fill this out. Now, because I don't do this, it's probably going to be some nonsense information, but I'm going to just go ahead and fill something out here. And I'm going to put 1075A because that's what's in the description. For these areas, I've had people ask me what they're supposed to put in these areas. If they're not marked with an asterisk, they're not mandatory fields. Usually this information can be filled in somewhere later on down the process, so there's no need to worry about that. But any additional information that you'd like to add, please use this. The special instructions at the bottom doesn't necessarily just need to be special instructions, but can also elaborate on other things like justification for a purchase or those types of things. Now, of course, if you have the memo and the justification and all of that in a document, that's always good to add in the supporting documents. But any information can be added down here. So for this one, I'm going to leave it blank because I don't know. Requester, I'll put John Doe. And for email, now this is important. So in this email section, this is, since it's being sent anonymously, it doesn't have a way of pulling the exact email like it belongs to an account. So it's pulling the text to generate emails as it goes through. So I've had people enter multiple emails here. I've had people leave small stories here. Those won't be able to generate an email to let you know if, for example, a process was terminated for whatever reason, or if it had been completed. So it's important to try to put just one. So I'm going to put just the one here. That's my own. This information, I don't know, vendor. I'm going to put what's in the description again. Mailing address. Let's see. Pardon. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Okay, for a lot of this, I'm just putting, of course, just dummy info. Category. Now for this category section, so anytime you're going to make an IT request or things like that through the PR process, you want to make sure that in these areas that you're getting the proper viewing in advance. I can only speak on IT because that's the one that I'm familiar with. But for example, you want to buy a laptop in your area. This one is going to be in such a way that it shows that you already reviewed it. They saw that it meets other specifications, that the proper software is included, and things like that. And then that here, whether it's through a memo. Seen one, I believe it was HIV, that used the email thread that showed that it had already been reviewed by the IT staff and that it was given the okay. So any type of verification here that shows that the communication has been made and it's been given the okay. But for this, I'm going to just keep it simple. This, I don't know these informations, so I'm just going to put 4 pieces at okay, and that's why I would put this information down here. I don't have an attachment, but okay, and I'm going to select local. Okay, once this submits, oh no. I just made this morning, so it's possible that I might have done something wrong. And I don't want to run a live form, but I can show one that's already in process. Okay, so once all of the information is filled out, it's going to send to the next step. I'll give, this thing keeps popping down on my screen.
Hi, Hovian.
Yes,
Oh, it's Remy at Dental.
hello.
Hi, I have a question.
Uh-huh,
In regards to, like, what about for an example, like my Henry Schein PRs
right,
that needs an approval, a justification approval from CEO
right.
for prepayment. Do I just attach the unsigned memo to the Laserfish, or do I have to route it first and get it approved before I attach it on Laserfish?
Yeah,
Yes,
so,
to the second.
go ahead.
Yes, you get your any supporting memos signed, and then once they're signed, you upload those signed. So then as individuals review it moving forward, they'll see all the supporting documentation.
Okay, so I would have to print all okay, so attach all signed first. All right, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, scanning to PDF and then attaching the PDFs, that's usually what Atemalu does.
Yeah, okay, got it. Thanks.
This thing keeps popping up. Try to move it. Okay. So in the workflow, so after you submit the initial, I don't know where I went wrong here, but it didn't allow it. But the first step would be whoever is your signature authority. So once that goes in, they're going to receive basically this to review. They review everything that's there. And then it goes to, well, for this one, it's going to go to Subroto immediately after the program review to verify. And then at each step, it's going to route it based on whether it's local or federal. And then it's going to go to the fund certification, and each step all the way through the same way that you've been familiar with, at each step attaching the signature to the step that it needs to be. Now, recently I made some changes so that the first step with MSO won't go straight to rejection. It will reroute to MSO so that they can clean it up and make recommendations for what needs to be done, and then send back to the program so that they can review it. Now, the program could ultimately reject it. They can make the decision to go ahead and terminate that process, in which case it will come here. And then this is a step that I've added, where it will send an email to let the original sender know that it's been declined. And the same type of an email is going to go out after the PO or the PR has been generated. It'll send out an email to let that original sender know. And that's why I say that that field is important, so that we know it's that one email address. That's how it's going to determine. So if in that field somebody said, for example, instead of putting the email address, we have multiple email addresses that we use. You can start by using, and then they put in one email address and another. This system's not going to be able to know how to distinguish that. It's not going to know that that's an email. So it's best to just put the one email address. We have a few running right now that have two email addresses. I don't know if that won't work, but in my mind, I'm assuming that it wouldn't, but it may. So this system is very finicky and it's very dumb. It can't make a lot of decisions. It really only pulls just basic information that's in it. So that's why it can be tricky to try to make it be flexible so that it can do all of the things that we really want it to do. So hopefully, everybody kind of understands that. I was really open to kind of go through and show everybody the step-by-step of the process and what it would look like if it did reject. I'm not sure why this failed, but the basic information, you're still getting that, of how to submit the initial form, and all of these other ones have been tested, so we know that they work. But I don't want to send one out to say Jesse or Bell or somebody right now, because nobody is wanting a test environment like that. The second half of the Laserfish is the actual repository. Now, this one's mostly available to say MSO, finance, and things like that. And I'm not going to get too deep into this because there's probably a lot of information in here that may be of a sensitive nature. But this is generally how it's going to be sorted. So under it, we'll have the contracts and the POs, and then that'll be divided by each of the different areas. And then people will be able to sort of, a lot of this is test info, but we'll be able to pull out the information that's needed based on approval. Whether it was rejected or not, it's still going to send something here to the repository so that if it's needed in the future, somebody from MSO, as an example, could be able to come in and search and find where that PO is and find it a lot easier. And hopefully in the future, as we use this stuff more, we'll kind of integrate all of these processes into our everyday workflow so that a lot of this becomes a lot easier. That's really it with the Laserfish forms. Did anyone have any questions for that? I know there have been a lot that kind of trickle in, but go ahead and feel free to ask now.
You don't unmute there. Oh, hey, it's Dental again.
Mhm.
We had a couple of problems, and going back to the prepayment and a lot of what do you call it? Sole source that we need signatures. The CEO does not want us just to give her something to sign without looking at everything, right? So does that mean we have to physically go and have her see that before we to get her signature so that we can upload it into this Laserfish? It's kind of like doing the same work twice.
You mean the initial PR?
Yeah, because we need pre-approval for the prepayment. And like Subroto said, yeah, we need that signed by her. But you said to have it signed by her before you upload it, correct? But she's not going to sign anything if you don't show her everything first. The supporting documents to what she's signing to.
Doc, if I may, this is Cora. I think the only supporting documents that you can provide with the justification memo, at least the proposal from the vendor. But the PR, you don't need to do it because we're going to do it through the Laserfish.
So like as Henry Schein, every time we use Henry Schein, it has to have the prepayment on for it. So that's
Correct,
the one
correct.
that we always are having an issue, because that's what our issue was with Henry Schein. We had to go 3 times to go through this laser fish. I want to
Yeah,
do it once and not 3 times.
um, I think, Doc, the reason why we wanted all documents to be officially signed, because even if we get audited and it's in the Laserfish and they're going to identify that as an audit findings, because we're putting in transaction into the Laserfish that are not officially approved. I mean, especially for the prepayment.
So
Now, the other question is, I think if we're able, after having to go through different layers of review, and this was part of our discussion last week, if there's a way that without having to redo the whole thing all over, if we could just re-upload it, go back. So I think if the Laserfish could allow at least Alan to be able to reattach it without going through the beginning of the process. Maybe that would be helpful. I yield to Hovian on that.
Okay,
yeah,
I'm sorry. Can you ask that again, Cor?
Okay, I think the incident with the Henry Schein, it had
Right.
gone through 2 layers of review, and then when it got to me, that's when we identified that the memo was not signed. So rather than to hit the resubmit and goes back to square one, can
Right.
Tony Allen go back in there, and I'm not gonna hit the resubmit, so it won't repeat the process, but I'll inform Tony to inform the program, get the memo out and have it signed, and then he can just re-upload it. Either way, Tony or the program can do it if that would give that kind of process the flexibility.
Yeah, so there's a couple things there. So one of the things that Subroto wanted me to cover in this were some of the changes that have been made since the initial rollout of the Laserfish. So one of the kind of safety nets that's been put in place is initially when, let me go to the workflow so that everyone can see. So initially this was not there, this wasn't there. And from this step, it used to go, they used to have the option to go directly to rejected and then the step. Because when we were having our meetings, it was decided that if it can't get past this step, then that would terminate the process. But through using it live, we see that wasn't really working out. So the change that was put in place here was kind of a safety net to say, even if it's rejected at this step, it's going to go back to Anthony so he can check it and then make all of the revisions that need to be made. So this is also two ways of looking at it. So one of the things that I talked to Anthony about was maybe instead of, like, let's say it's missing a memo that needs a signature. Now, instead of rejecting that, even though it won't go straight to the reject anymore, instead of sending it here and making the extra work for himself, hold on to it, consider it to be in like a queuing phase, and then request that information from the department and say, could you please give us that memo that's been signed? And then we'll go ahead and attach it at this step so that we can keep it moving forward. Now, if for some reason it just absolutely has to be, there's been a big change, and I've seen Subroto has to do some of these. There's a big change that needs to be made where we just can't use the data that's been entered in the initial form. It's more than just a signed memo that's needed. If that's the case, then the way that it's been routed is still, it's going to come here to this resubmit phase. And the resubmit gives Anthony the ability to clear all of the signatures that have been there, even if it was all the way with the CEO. All of those signatures can be removed. All of the information can be removed. The quantities, the itemized listing of whatever it is that's being purchased, the vendor, all of that. And then that can be sent back to this program review step. this is as far back as we can go, unfortunately, and that's due to the licensing. So say, for example, this is something that would end up back with Jesse. It may be a blank form. It may be completely blank and all part of the same process, but need that information filled out again. So then whoever was initially sending the form would need to work with Jesse or someone else to be able to have the correct information entered at that step. And then it would proceed, hopefully with all of the proper corrections so that it could proceed successfully. And I hope that answers some of those questions with that. The additional steps here was for more communication. So since these are sent anonymously, there's no email that it can hold to an account because there was no account logged in to send the form. So it's pulling that info from the field. So we'll now send an email that it's very basic. It's very small amount of information that just says, unfortunately, it's been rejected. Please contact your signature authority. Or in this case of the confirm email, it'll send one that says your PEO has been processed successfully, and then to contact MSO or whomever to follow up on that. Are there any additional questions for that portion?
I just have one quick question. So instead of using an anonymous user, can they, like for instance, if Remy uploads or processes something through the Laserfish, is there any way that she can be the preparer? So that way, if there's any questions, they go back to her instead of having to try and figure out, like, well, who said it, who sent it, and whose account, or because it doesn't say much on the Laserfish, even when it comes to my routing. So I have to go back and scroll down and see who, but it just keeps saying anonymous user.
Well, that's the licensing problem, right? So we only have enough licenses for a few accounts to make the process happen. But once we have more licenses, then we're going to start being able to really see. So it's we've looked at some where the actual login was used to submit the request, and when that's done, the initial sender is able to see exactly where it is, who it's with, and they're able to read all of the comments that go with it so that they can see themselves, okay, this needs to be changed or that needs to be changed. But for now, it's relying on a lot of communication from each of the steps. So that's where, like, I've spoken with Anthony in the past and said, to call and let people, know exactly what it is that's happening, because even though you may put it in the comment section, the person who initially sent the PR may not get that info. So the licenses will really help. Let me see. There was a comment here, I think, from Cora.
I think just while you're looking at that, just to add to Janet's question, I mean, I think that part of this is forming and norming, and so trying to do the best with the licenses that were originally given. And I think we're making it work, and dental, Dr. Sabino will figure out some plan B so you don't have to do it 3 times. So it's not
just the kinks.
There are kinks, and we're trying to streamline as much as possible. And there are, I'm not going to lie, it's not going to be perfect. But I think what we're trying to do is utilize this investment and try to get as much of our PRs through this to allow for faster processing and more transparent processing. And I think within a few short months, this has been launched. It was taking a lot of time to get there. But looking at the next several months, and especially how we're coming back online, this is where I think we will be utilizing the experience to justify that we need to get more licenses. And so I know Tony Regis is now back, and others, and Bell. are getting those price quotes. So I think in short order, we'll have much greater access than we have right now. So bear with us for the meantime. Thank you.
I think that the reason why we went 3 times, Subroto, is because when it's rejected, like one, we did not know about it until I looked for it. And then there were minor things that we could have made changes, but instead it went back to square one. So I was wondering if we had any like fail safe, instead of rejecting it, you know, contact the program to see what, you know, why you're rejecting it so that we can fix it. Even as far as where the CFO was, because he wanted a change of funding source. And luckily we were able to talk about it, because if he was to reject it, it would have gone back to square one.
Yeah.
So we figured out how to do it, but those are the things that I think winds up getting kind of frustrated going back, you know, like three times in a row, because we were working out the kinks. But that's because it was rejected. Once it's rejected, and Hovian, you know that, right? Once it's rejected, it goes back to square one. So I think we were trying to figure out how to do it so it doesn't get rejected. Like you can reach out to the program so the program can fix the problem and then make it go through, as opposed to going back to square one just for a small problem.
Yeah, I think I think these are all good lessons learned in preparing the right documents from the beginning. So, all right, we'll leave it at that. We'll move on. Thanks, Doc. We'll keep working with you. You're our field tester. Okay. Hovian, anything else?
Yes.
Yep.
No, for the most part, that pretty much gives a rough and dry. I wish I could have given the walkthrough that I had planned, but I was trying to get that together this morning as a follow-up idea, and it blew up on me.
Well, maybe
But,
you can do it and tape it and send it out to everyone.
Oh, you would like that, huh?
Yes, any YouTube. Why don't
I
we
guess
close?
before we move on, since we're still on the PR processing and all of that, so me and Cora were speaking this morning, and Hovian, how would it work if they're using a local and a federal account?
So it would be 2 separate. Remember, we had discussed that in the meetings, because I didn't even know that was an option. But yeah, I think it was decided that there would have to be 2 separate submissions.
And maybe what we're going to have to work out is as much as we try to, utilize this, or maybe, the goal might be to use as much as we can for, maybe there's a criteria that we can come up with until we can get some more licenses. And
Yes, yes.
yes, please mute. And then, there may be, if we can push more of our sort of straightforward procurements through this, and then it reduces and it limits perhaps paper ones for the more complicated ones, that maybe like a lot of the prepaid ones, or maybe they're the split procurement ones, split business unit or funding source. Maybe those are the ones that we try to say, okay, well, 90% we're pushing through Laserfish, and these 2 areas will still stay with paper. That'll help out a lot. So, I think those are solutions that are definitely on the table, but we really want to try to push as much as we can through Laserfish. But if there are ones that, we don't want to do this in a way that's shoving the square into the circle. So we're not trying to add more headaches to your day. So I think those are things that we need to talk about. And if it creates too much problems, or it creates a need to add more programming steps that can't be uniform across all the programs, then that might be a criteria to say, this is one, until we can figure it out, is paper only. So, let's keep talking about that and figure and adopt some of those operating principles that way. I also want to, I know that Hobie, and you're gonna do a little bit on Only Office, is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to close, and Vince and Shawnalei are here from GMO, but also just to kind of reiterate that, you know, for those that are processing things under federal funding, I just continue to make sure that your documentation for those procurements is part of the attachment. So that travels along the approval pathway so that there's no question that it's an allowable expense, it's an approved expense, it's a reasonable expense. And I don't know if you want to add.
Yeah.
You're going to do a.
Boss,
Alina,
I have suggestion.
Alina, I concur.
I concur.
Yeah. Yes,
Boss
Pearly.
Pearly.
Okay, Boss Pearly.
Yes. Boss, I have a suggestion. For
Please.
multi-funded purchase, I would suggest routing it through Laserfish to the most restrictive funding. Like if you're gonna fund the purchase of federal and local, 50-50, instead of routing two, which may confuse accounting and confuse recording in general, because it's one code that you're gonna cut into two PRs. One code should just go through as one PR. I would suggest routing it to the most restrictive, which is the federal. Because if it's allowable in the federal, then it would be allowable in local. We would just have to check money, right? So I would suggest multi-funded purchase requisition go through the most restrictive funding source as one PR rather than splitting the purchase requisition and
Okay.
tracking to it might not reach the destination at the same time.
Okay, we may have to put just, we have to put that down as a, so yeah, that's good to hear. So maybe that's good. I'm glad you joined finance. So maybe we can share that as a guidance to everyone from finance's perspective. So we can implement that. But that's great. Thank you for thinking through that.
Thank you.
Okay. No other significant update, Pearly? No. Oh, sorry, wrong meeting. Sorry. Okay. All right, we have a couple minutes left. Thank you all for your participation in this experiment. And again, as you come up with challenges, please, communicate with Hovey and myself. If it's federal, please reimburse with the GMO team, with Pearly and Cora. We want to make this work and we want to expand it. And right now, there may be some kinks that we'll keep working on. And with that, I just want to ask Hovian, could you just give an update on, I think you're going to do an update on Only Office, just to kind of let everyone know where that's at?
Sure. So here's our Only Office. Now the plan in the future for this is to have this one actually online.
Hovian, I don't know if everyone even knows what Only Office is.
Okay. So Only Office is going to be kind of it's going to be like Google Docs for the hospital. So since Google themselves
for CDC, not just the hospital.
Yeah, since it's so expensive for the Google apps, we were able to pick this one up, which is an open source alternative, which does similar. So for this one, your login is going to be the same as these other systems. It's your computer account. And in the future, this will also be tied into your email. So when you do log in with your computer account, that will also be your email account. Right now, it's not set up because we don't have it online yet. But once it is online, you'd be able to check your email here. You'll be able to read your news feeds here for all of the current news that's going on around CHCC. This one can at least show what the email would look like. So once the email is actually in place, this is how it'll be set up so that you can check all of your email here. And then they have the messaging, and this one will be split up so that you can actually go to each area and see, like for IT, for example, if anyone's there, you'd be able to, if you needed to send them a direct message, however that may work. And any of the news feeds that come in, whatever may be going out through CHCC, you'll also receive that in here as a new message. Now on the main page here, we have this kind of a launch pad for all of everything that we use here. So a lot of these are not going to be important to everyone, but at least some of these will be important to some people. The meeting room system, for example, to see which conference rooms are booked. The maintenance ticketing, your time clock, the asset management that we were going over earlier, Zoom itself. This one is going to be kind of a part two to this. So this is all of the apps and documents. And this one is going to be the drive, similar to Google Drive. So it's where you'll be able to keep all of your documents and things like that. You'll also be able to see everyone here. You'll be able to find basic info on them, their hopefully their extensions, email addresses. That'll be pretty easy since it'll all be managed through here. So anyone that you may be trying to get in contact with, it'll be as easy as just trying to find out where they are, filtering it down. We have some joke images in here, but this will all be fixed over time. CQPM. So some of these have already been sorted. I've been manually trying to kind of sort everything out so that we can see who's where. In the documents, this one has a way of connecting to. If you have a Google Drive, you can connect that here. If you have a Dropbox, you can connect that here. And then this is the one for the drive itself, which is this one. And this, of course, like all the others, same login. And this is how you'll be logging in through the internet. So if you're in Hawaii on business, you'd be able to log into these the same way. Okay. So all your documents may be here. That's the ones that I opened up here earlier. You can make edits. You can be shared. Same with Google Docs. Actually, you can, if you have a Google Docs document, you can share it with somebody who is an OnlyOffice user, and you can all be using the same document that originated on Google Docs. As long as you're using OnlyOffice, you can all modify it and it'll show in all of the team adjustments. And then once you're done, you can save it in the OnlyOffice and it'll make all of its updates in the Google Drive, so that if you're using, say, something that was your own Google Docs, it would save all of those updates. We just want to be careful that most of the things that we're saving that may contain any kind of personal, like private, sensitive data, that we keep that all in here, because the benefit to using this and hosting this on our servers is that that'll make our email and the documentation that's held here HIPAA compliant. This has a similar look to Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel. So a lot of this, there won't be like a huge steep learning curve, but there are limitations to all of the features that are available to the online version. There's also a desktop version that can be downloaded of the OnlyOffice, so you can have the actual application, which would be good for if you want to work on your documents, but you're, say, on a flight to Guam, and you're in a hurry trying to finish up. You don't have internet. You can use that offline editor to continue doing whatever edits you need. Then whenever you get to your final destination, it'll synchronize over the internet. So this one here is going to be how we're going to connect it to our existing shares. A lot of people, especially like business billing, they have tons and tons and tons of data that's already on the shared drives. So instead of just saying we're going to migrate everything to here, a lot of that information it's going to be able to use the pre-existing shares of everything. And then in here, this stuff has some of its own features. Not entirely sure what all we're going to use yet, but forms is one of them. So if you wanted to get kind of a Q&A and gather the info, this is similar to the way that Google Docs does their forms. So you'd send this out, you could send it to everybody, have them fill it out, and then whenever you view the results, it'll be, again, same similar way you would with the Google. You can just kind of view everything all in a spreadsheet kind of thing and export it to a CSV. Because these are not online yet, the integration between the two of these, this one will use this, but this one will not point to the other until they're online and actually ready to use. The last thing I want to cover on the Only Office is the projects. This is a big one because it gives us a project management solution that's all part of this same suite. We have tons and tons of projects, so this is going a little, okay. So some of you may be familiar with how all of these work. There are a lot of guides that are not done by me that are out there for project management, but it's all the same basic that you would do through Microsoft Project or any of these others. And it has all the same similar features. It's a little bit more scaled down. It's not as robust as some of the big name ones, but all of the general features are there for anything that you may need to use. Did anyone have any questions on this one?
Nope, we look forward to that rolling that out, and that'll also roll out eventually with official CHCC email addresses as we start to wind down from the G Suite era. So stand by for all that as well. The goal CEO has is that everyone will get a CHCC official email address too. So accessible.
Yeah, everyone's email would be like first name dot last name at chcc.health, and then that would be it.
That's our logo, our handle that we bought, which is at chcc.health.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. All right. Well, I know it's a little bit after 12, and folks I can hear stomachs grumbling, growling. So I'll bring this to a closure. I just want to let everyone know this group, as these applications update, Hovian will be, and the IT team will be sending out update notes. So you're aware of functionality changes. None of these things are etched in stone. They always have some modifications, updates, and so look out for them. I asked for this call today and asked for those who had already gone through earlier phases of this training to come and we will do these probably quarterly, because there are times when getting together and going over it with Hovian and on Zoom, because there have been significant changes, is helpful. So thanks for everyone who participated today, and we'll get the recording out via Hovian as soon as it renders. So thank you, and keep your questions going on all these applications. We appreciate your participation. And have a good rest of the day. Thank you, Hovian, and we'll look forward to seeing you on YouTube. Okay, bye.
All right. Thanks, everybody.